Hey guys, welcome back to another one. I'm just going to go over this problem that I've been working on in Java for a little bit. Um, Basically, the best way for me to learn is to teach something to someone else, even though I really don't. I wouldn't say that I know what I'm doing. Usually, I share with my wife what I'm learning in Java, but she's sick of it. So here I am on YouTube now. I'll share it with whoever wants to listen here. But anyways, here's the problem. Write a program that collects any number of non-negative integer inputs and calculates the sum of the values. A negative integer should end the input collection and is not part of the sum. Output the smallest non-negative value and the sum of the non-negative input values, ending with a new line. Ensure your program output matches the example formatting below and works for a variety of input values. So basically, if the user input is 15, 20, 0, 3, -1, that -1, as it says up here, stops the program, and the smallest would be 0. So what it does is it gets you the smallest, 0, and it calculates the sum, excluding the negative there. One thing that I would encourage you that helped me that I had to learn early on while learning to code in Java, in coding period, is to stop and just wait. Do not start coding. That's one temptation I had, was read the problem and just go start writing code out, and it would get frustrating. It would take me a while, but one thing that really helped me was to think through the problem. So I would encourage you to stop this video for a minute before you start coding. If you don't, I'll leave a timestamp and we can just jump to that session, start coding. But basically, think through your problem, understand the problem, especially for this one here. Like, for example, we know that any number, that's a key indicator. Well, I might need a max value for that. Set something. We know we need to stop the program if there's a negative, so there's going to be possibly a conditional statement in there to check for that. We know we need to identify what to track, so that's important. So we know we're going to need a sum. So you need to keep a running total of all valid inputs, smallest value. So we're going to need to keep track of that smallest value for each user input. So those are some things you got to think through. I would encourage you to stop before you start coding and just go through whether it's this here or yourself and just start writing it out. Like, what is the problem that I need to solve? What is the logical operation, the steps, the recipe to get to that final product that I need? And so some of the things you're going to learn here is reading user input with a loop, using conditionals check for valid data, non-negative number integers, breaking out of a loop when a condition negative integer is met. So sorting and updating variables. So there's some of the things. This is very simple once you get the hang of it, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the most valuable little problem sets you can have here because it teaches you a lot of things. So let's go ahead and jump to the coding, enough talking, and see if we can solve this. Again, if you see me pausing at all at any point, it's because I'm learning with you as well. So here we go. So like I said, I know that we're going to need a smallest and a sum. So let's go ahead and get our, and I'm assuming you imported your scanner. So if you haven't, go ahead and do that. So we need an int variable. We're going to call that smallest for our smallest number that we're going to have to keep track of. And we could set that integer dot max value. Let's just set it to a max value. This is a very large number basically, and we can continue to check to see if the user's input, we'll see later, is smaller than this max value. We'll update it and we'll see the logic behind that in a second. We also need the sum, so it's very simple. We need a sum. We can just set that sum to 0, just like a holding place for now. Okay, now let's think about the logic that we're going to need next. So we need to check for that negative number. I like checking for the negative number first. I don't know if this is correct, but I like doing it first because there's no point to go through the program. If there's a negative number, we can just break out of it immediately. So we're going to head and use a while loop. So we're going to go ahead and say while true. So basically like basically like an infinite loop here. We'll go ahead and check. So while true, what do we need to check for? We need to, before we check it nums, let's go ahead and get a nums because I just remembered I'm going to need the user's input. So we need to, hey, we need to check for user input before we can check if there's a negative number inputted. That's why I said thinking through the logic is very important, and having it in order is also very important. So this is something that I'm still learning, but I found to be very important. So hey, we got user input. Okay, now we got our infinite loop. Let's do our check. Let's say, hey, if the user inputs, if nums, which is the user input, is less than 0, we need you to do something for this. And that thing we need you to do, if nums is less than 0, is just to break out of this loop and end the program. Very simple. When you think about it that way, to me, it's just so much more simple. Okay, now what do we need next? Well, we're going to need the sum. We need to know, obviously, we need to keep track of the sum and keep adding to that. So all we can do for that, something very simple, we could say sum plus equal nums. So basically what we're saying is sum is equal to sum plus nums is what we're saying. So we're saying, hey, user nums, which is the user input, take that user input and add it, continue to add it into this sum box here, this variable, and just continue to update that so we can accumulate the integers that are being inputted by the user. So that's very simple. So we got our sums taken care of, our sum. Now we need to keep track of what our smallest. So like the problem said, we need to also print out the smallest number that they've inputted. So we can use another conditional for that. If nums is less than smallest, so basically if nums, if user input is less than smallest, less than this very large number, then we need you to take smallest and updated it, set it equal to nums. So hey, check the nums, the user input. If it's less than the smallest, this very large number, can you take the user input and set that equal to the smallest? And that's how we keep track of the smallest. So very simple. And then all we have to do after this is print everything out. So check our program dot print line, and we're going to say we need smallest. We'll print that first. And smallest, give a little space there, and we're going to go ahead and add our smallest. So that should give us our smallest, and then we'll do system dot out dot print line, our sum. We also need our sum, a little space there so it's not all bunched up, and plus sum. There we go. Okay, so before we check this, I already checked it before when I was practicing with this, when I was going through it. So that's what you're seeing here, but I'll go ahead and empty that so we can check it again, see if I made any mistakes again. But anyways, so basically, hey, we got our smallest variable, we'll set that to max, or sum, we'll set that to a placeholder 0, and then we run through the logic of this very simple as I explained. Now we can check our program. Let's see, let's enter 1, 5, 6, let's make a very obvious smallest, and a -2. And there we go. Smallest is 0, sum 12, and it worked as intended. I've been practicing this just this morning, but what really helped me again, like I said, is running through the logic of what I need to do here. It took me a very long time just to kind of write out, to learn that, I mean, to go back and think about the logic instead of just sitting down and writing code. And once I did that, I was like, wow, this is way more simple, and I'm making it way more complicated than it needs to be. But anyways, I hope this helped. If you want to print out of this or a copy of this, just let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one.